Welcome to The Debate. Imagine a geography teacher in 2015 spending 3 hours writing code and formatting layouts just to build a single interactive climate zone map for her students.
Oh yeah, a total nightmare of manual labor.
Right. But today, in 2026, her 8th grade student can generate a fully functional multi-layered climate widget in the time it takes to type a single sentence.
Well, she's just wild to think about.
It really is. We are looking at a fundamental rewiring of the classroom. For decades, the hardest part of teaching, whether you were a primary school educator mapping out a phonics lesson or a university professor designing a graduate seminar, was the blank page.
Exactly. You had to painstakingly build the structural scaffolding by hand before your students could even step onto it to begin learning. And that manual labor wasn't just time-consuming, it was an entirely separate skill set from pedagogy.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to be the architect, the construction worker, and the interior designer all at once.
Exactly, but we are now examining a reality where the scaffolding practically builds itself. So today we're unpacking the transformation of Canva for education. As of this year, it is no longer just a simple graphic design app.
Right, far from it.
It has evolved into a massive AI-powered creative operating system, and the scale is just staggering. We are talking about 100 million monthly users across over 800,000 schools globally.
Which is a massive footprint.
Oh, absolutely. With more than 25 generative AI tools now purpose-built for the classroom and offered completely free for K through 12, this is a paradigm shift. We want to frame our discussion today explicitly around the daily reality of teachers at every educational level.
Right. So where do you stand on this?
Ultimate democratizing force in modern education. I mean, it profoundly empowers educators and students by reducing cognitive load, removing technical friction, and fostering unprecedented creativity through a safe, curriculum-aligned environment.
And I come at it from a very different way. I will readily acknowledge the unprecedented adoption rate. It is an undeniable technological marvel. But I firmly challenge the premise that seamless generation automatically equates to better education. While this pervasive automation is, visually and technically impressive, it introduces serious systemic risks.
Like what, specifically?
Well, we are looking at critical accessibility gaps for our most vulnerable students. And perhaps more fundamentally, there's the very real potential that we are bypassing the productive struggle that is absolutely essential to genuine learning.
Okay, so let me lay out the mechanics of why I see this as a fundamentally empowering shift, starting with the sheer scale of access. Canva for Education is 100% free for K through 12 educators, students, and qualified districts.
Right.
And we aren't talking about some stripped-down freemium version where all the good tools are locked behind a paywall. Every single free account includes all the pro features.
Which is a lot of storage.
It's 1 terabyte of cloud storage, over 100 million premium assets, the 80,000 education-specific templates, and, crucially, the full Magic Studio AI suite. From a purely practical standpoint, this elevates teachers from manual laborers to creative directors.
Okay, but what about the students?
Well, we have the evidence to back up the pedagogical value there, too. A 2025 study published in Sage Journals showed that students using Canva alongside flipped classroom methodologies actually demonstrated improved reading comprehension and increased confidence.
Interesting.
Yeah, and why is that? Because research indexed in ERIC confirms that these tools reduce the cognitive load associated with technical tasks. When a student isn't exhausting their working memory figuring out how to align text boxes or format a digital poster, they have the cognitive bandwidth to actually comprehend the historical text they're reading.
Sure, I get that.
So with features like Magic Activities and the recent March 2026 rollout of Magic Layers, the platform provides a highly malleable starting point for deep learning.
Look, the financial accessibility is brilliant for underfunded districts. Yes, providing enterprise-level tools at no cost is a massive benefit. But we are completely ignoring the pedagogical and structural blind spots of deploying an automated operating system directly into the classroom.
How so?
My concern is twofold. First, the infrastructure itself is not as universally equitable as the marketing implies. Look at the critical February 2025 University of Minnesota assessment.
Ah, the accessibility study.
Exactly. They revealed that Canva cannot yet produce fully accessible PDFs according to WCAG 2.2 standards. Complex layouts and tables still require external remediation.
True. That is a known issue.
And second, and much more philosophically concerning, deploying massive generation engines like the Canva design model and Canva Code 2.0 to students under 13 risks replacing foundational skill development with superficial prompt engineering. We are trading deep conceptual mastery for the mere illusion of competence.
Let's stop and unpack that second point right now, because I really want to look at how these specific mechanics play out in a real classroom. You mentioned Canva Code 2.0 and Magic Activities, which honestly completely changed the landscape when they launched.
They certainly change things, yes.
With Magic Activities, a teacher can type a simple text prompt with their specific learning objectives. For example, compare mechanical and electromagnetic waves for an 8th grade science level. The AI then generates a ready-to-use Venn diagram, a thinking framework, or a matching exercise in under a minute.
Wait, hold on. Under a minute?
Literally seconds.
And that is exactly where I see the danger. Let's pause on that 8th grade science example. When an AI instantly generates that Venn diagram, or a fully interactive climate zone explorer through Canva Code 2.0, what is actually lost in those seconds?
I'd argue nothing is lost.
But the student or the teacher types a natural language prompt and a highly structured informational widget just appears. No programming required, no structural mapping required. But the process of building and structuring information is where the learning happens.
Well,
Figuring out how to categorize those waves, struggling with the layout of the information, deciding what data point belongs in which overlapping circle, that is cognitive friction. When you argue that this technology reduces cognitive load, I argue that it eliminates the very cognitive friction required to forge neural pathways in a developing brain.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. You were looking at the friction as the learning itself, whereas I see it as a barrier to higher-level learning.
A barrier.
Yes. I look at Canva Code 2.0 and Magic Activities through the lens of a very specific historical analogy. Think about the introduction of the scientific calculator in mathematics classrooms.
Oh, I mean, the scientific calculator analogy is a classic defense, but it completely falls apart when you look at the mechanics.
It's a classic defense because the fundamental mechanism holds true. Before the scientific calculator, students spent an inordinate amount of time on the rote mechanics of long division, calculating square roots and, looking up trigonometric tables in the back of a textbook.
Right.
There was friction, absolutely, but was it productive friction? The calculator handled the rote computation so that students could ascend to higher-level conceptual design, like calculus and advanced physics.
But
Canva Code 2.0 operates on the exact same principle, just applied to informational design. A geography teacher doesn't want to spend 3 hours writing HTML and JavaScript to build an interactive climate zone widget. They want to teach climate zones.
sure.
A student building a historical timeline shouldn't fail their history assignment because they don't understand formatting logic or visual hierarchy, right? They should be evaluated on their historical analysis. The AI handles the rote formatting. It frees the mind to actually synthesize the material.
I hear you.
In fact, Canva's own survey of 1,000 U.S. teachers found that 60% report AI sparks innovative ideas and 59% say it fosters creativity.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the calculator analogy maps onto generative AI. And here is exactly why. A calculator computes a deterministic answer. 2 plus 2 is always 4. The square root of 81 is always 9.
Okay.
Generative AI, like the Canva design model, synthesizes entirely new, complex informational layouts based on probabilistic models. It is guessing what the next most likely pixel or word should be based on its training data. Let me offer a better metaphor.
Let's hear it.
A calculator is a bicycle. It just makes your own pedaling move you faster. Generative AI is a self-driving car where the AI is choosing the destination. When a student uses generative AI to build that historical timeline, the AI is deciding what historical events to prioritize, how to contextualize them, and how to visually hierarchalize them on the page.
I mean, not entirely.
It is. The AI is making editorial and intellectual choices, not just formatting ones. That is a massive outsourcing of critical thinking.
But that outsourcing argument assumes the AI's output is the final product.
And that is exactly why the shift from generic image generation to the Canva design model is so crucial to understand. Generic AI tools give you a flat, unchangeable JPEG.
Right, a static image.
Yeah, it's what Canva's co-founder correctly identified as a dead end. If the AI makes a bad editorial choice in a flat image, you are stuck with it. But Canva has solved this mechanism. The designs generated by their ecosystem are fully editable and layered.
Which is impressive, yes.
Text becomes live text boxes. Objects become individually movable elements. With the March 2026 debut of Magic Layers, every single asset the AI generated can be pulled apart, interrogated, and altered.
Okay, but
So the AI isn't providing a finished product to be passively consumed. It is providing a dynamic first draft. The student is then required to refine, edit, and fact-check that draft. It pushes them into an editorial role, which actually requires a higher order of critical thinking than just starting with a blank page.
pushing a student into an editorial role requires immense critical thinking, which actually brings up a massive red flag for me. Editing a synthetic draft effectively requires foundational knowledge and media literacy. And that brings us to the elephant in the room. We are giving these enterprise-grade synthesis tools to children. Let's talk about the 2025 AI for All Ages policy, which formally allowed students under 13 to access generative AI on this platform.
I'm really glad we are pivoting to this because the safety architecture behind that policy is robust, and educators need to understand how it mechanically works. The AI for All Ages rollout wasn't just, throwing open the gates to the Wild West of the internet.
It certainly felt like it to some.
Well, it was built entirely on the foundation of Canva's Shield. The most critical detail here is that access is entirely controlled at the institutional level. A school district administrator or a teacher can enable or restrict AI access by grade, by specific class, or even down to the individual user.
Right.
And more importantly, let's look at the privacy certifications. FERPA, COPPA, SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001.
Okay, break that down for me because listing acronyms doesn't really explain what is actually happening to a fourth grader's data.
Fair point. In simple terms, these certifications mean Canva has built a digital fortress. It means the system is physically and legally walled off. The setting that prevents education user data from being used for AI training is permanently locked.
So no training on student essays?
Exactly. The AI system literally cannot ingest a fourth grader's history essay or a sixth grader's science project to train its public models. There is zero data leakage. Furthermore, no advertising is ever served to students, and student designs are private by default. Their work isn't even indexed by Google or Bing. It is an incredibly locked-down, secure sandbox.
I will grant you that. The data privacy protocols are exceptionally well managed, and that walled garden approach is exactly what a district should demand. But my concern isn't really about data being stolen by advertisers. My concern is about the content being generated inside that walled garden.
Content generation?
Yes. Have you considered the sheer sophistication of the media we are allowing children to synthesize? Following the 2024 acquisitions, the DreamLab tool is now powered by Leonardo.AI's Phoenix model, and Magic Media is utilizing Google's Veo 3 for text-to-video generation.
Which are incredibly powerful creative tools.
They aren't just powerful. They generate reality. Veo 3 isn't just generating cute cartoons for a presentation. It's generating cinematic, reality-bending, photorealistic 8-second video clips based on probabilistic hallucination.
Right.
If a sixth grader prompts it for a historical event, the AI isn't querying a factual database. It's hallucinating a statistically likely, photorealistic scene of something that never actually happened. You are putting Hollywood-level synthetic media generation into the hands of 11-year-olds.
But there are safeguards.
Even with input moderation preventing outright explicit or violent content, flooding the K-12 environment with the ability to instantly generate photorealistic synthetic media creates a tremendously complex informational environment. It vastly outpaces the media literacy frameworks currently existing in most schools. We are teaching kids how to edit reality before we've adequately taught them how to critically evaluate what reality was in the first place.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because it treats the school environment as an isolated bubble that we must protect from the real world, rather than a laboratory where we actively prepare students for the real world.
It is a laboratory, but
Yes, Dreamlab and VO3 can create photorealistic media, but students are already encountering deepfakes, algorithmic manipulation, and photorealistic synthetic media on every single social network they use outside of school. Ignoring the technology inside the classroom won't build media literacy.
Okay, but how does Canva build it?
By bringing these specific generative tools into the classroom integrated within a secure LMS environment like Canva, Schoology, or Google Classroom, teachers can actively facilitate that media literacy. They can pull up a VO3 generation on the smartboard and have a guided conversation about prompting, inherent bias, and visual manipulation in a safe space. Supervised integration is how you build resilience.
But supervised integration requires teachers to have the bandwidth to supervise it properly. And that brings me directly to my next point. We are looking at this incredibly fast, AI-flooded classroom where teachers can generate complex materials in seconds. But does this rapid generation truly serve all students equally, or are we inadvertently institutionalizing new forms of inequity through sheer speed?
You mean the accessibility issues?
Yes. Let's drill down into the structural accessibility limitations you glossed over earlier.
You're referring back to the WCAG 2.2 standards?
Yes, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The February 2025 University of Minnesota assessment is a critical finding that we simply cannot ignore. They found that Canva cannot yet produce fully accessible PDFs according to these standards. Specifically, when the AI generates complex layouts and data tables, it doesn't always add the semantic HTML tags underneath the visual layer. To a sighted person, it looks like a beautiful table. But to a screen reader, it's a garbled mess because the software doesn't know where a column starts or ends. Now, you might argue that tools like Gamma or Adobe Express have their own similar flaws. But Canva's scale, 100 million monthly users, means its accessibility gaps impact millions of students simultaneously.
How does that play out in a daily workflow from your perspective?
Let's look at a very common daily scenario. A university professor or a high school teacher utilizes the new AssignFlow LMS integration. They use Magic Design to instantly generate a highly complex 20-slide presentation deck on macroeconomics.
Right.
They click one button and distribute it seamlessly to their entire class through Google Workspace or Microsoft Teams. It takes the teacher maybe 5 minutes. But if that deck contains complex tables that fail the WCAG 2.2 standards, a visually impaired student using a screen reader at home cannot complete the assignment.
Okay, I see the issue.
The teacher didn't build the table manually, so they didn't realize the semantic tags were missing. The AI has essentially automated and institutionalized inequity because the speed of creation outpaces the speed of accessibility compliance.
I acknowledge the WCAG 2.2 limitation with complex PDFs as a genuine mechanical flaw. The semantic tagging of generated tables absolutely must improve. And as the platform pushes toward the Canva Create 2026 event, I expect we will see significant investment in resolving those final PDF remediation hurdles.
I hope so.
But I must push back strongly on your broader framing of inequity here. You are focusing on one specific software limitation while ignoring the massive accessibility breakthroughs this exact same system provides. You have to zoom out and look at the global classroom perspective.
I am looking at it.
Canva already has a robust built-in design accessibility checker that flags color contrast issues and illegible typography. It auto-generates video captions seamlessly. But the truly revolutionary piece is the Translate tool.
A translation tool doesn't fix a core PDF rendering standard failure for a visually impaired student.
True, but look at the broader equity picture for diverse learners. The Translate tool allows a teacher to take that 20-slide presentation, worksheet, or lesson plan and instantly translate the entire thing into over 100 languages with preserved formatting.
Wow.
Think about a public school teacher in a district with a high population of newly arrived immigrant students. Historically, that teacher had no way to instantly provide differentiated native language materials to 5 students from 5 completely different linguistic backgrounds. It would take hours of manual translation work that they simply did not have.
That is fair.
Now, with a single click, they can provide immediate access to the curriculum. Or consider the Magic Write tool. A teacher can take a dense historical text and instantly ask the AI to rewrite it to accommodate 3 different reading levels within the exact same classroom, supporting neurodivergent students or those reading below grade level.
Yeah, that is definitely useful.
For multilingual and diverse classrooms, features like this shatter massive barriers to equity. The inclusion generated by instant translation and reading level differentiation far outweighs the current limitations with complex PDF table remediation. It is actively leveling the playing field for millions.
I will concede that the Translate tool and reading level differentiation are genuinely powerful utilities for inclusion. If I am a teacher with a diverse, multilingual classroom, those mechanisms are an absolute lifeline. But we cannot grade enterprise educational technology on a curve.
What do you mean by that?
When a platform becomes the default creative operating system for 800,000 schools globally, partial accessibility is simply not enough. The convenience and speed for the majority of students cannot come at the expense of a marginalized minority who rely on screen readers.
Which is precisely why Canva continues to iterate so aggressively on its architecture. If you track the evolution just over the last year, from the Visual Suite 2.0 launch in April 2025, to the overarching Canva design model in October, to the introduction of Magic Layers in March 2026, you see a platform that is constantly refining its underlying mechanisms based on direct educator feedback.
Well, they have to.
And it's no coincidence that they earned the SD seal. The reviewers from the International Society for Technology and Education explicitly noted that the platform is fundamentally aligned with how students learn best.
Right. As we look toward the future of this platform, I think it's time we summarize where this leaves the educators actually standing in the classrooms today.
Go for it.
From my perspective, as we look at the trajectory heading into the upcoming Canva Create 2026 event in Los Angeles, I see a dual reality. On one hand, Canva has undeniably solved a major technical problem in generative AI. They fixed the dead end of flat images by making everything editable, multi-layered, and inherently malleable.
Exactly.
That is a massive technical achievement that changes how media is created. However, educators at all levels must remain highly vigilant. The lack of complete WCAG 2.2 compliance for complex layouts is a significant structural hurdle that impacts real students today.
Right.
More importantly, the temptation to substitute true cognitive skill building for rapid prompt engineering is a pedagogical trap. Just because an AI can generate a perfectly formatted Venn diagram or an interactive historical timeline in 10 seconds does not mean the student has absorbed the underlying knowledge. We must fiercely protect the productive struggle of learning, because without that friction, we are just generating pretty empty pages.
And my summary is that the productive struggle isn't disappearing, it is simply moving to a higher intellectual plane. Canva has successfully built an ecosystem where AI serves as a dynamic, creative starting point rather than a replacement for teaching. By integrating deeply with every major LMS through the LTI standard, meaning it plugs directly into the digital gradebooks and assignment flows teachers already use, and providing tools like Magic Write to seamlessly differentiate instruction, it is actively solving one of the greatest crises in education: teacher burnout.
That is certainly a crisis.
When teachers aren't exhausted by the manual labor of formatting digital worksheets late into the night, they can spend their energy on human connection and higher-order pedagogy in the classroom.
We certainly agree that the shift from a simple graphic design application to a comprehensive AI-driven creative operating system is a permanent evolution in educational technology. The recent integration of tools like the Affinity Professional Suite and the maturation of these generative models guarantees that this platform will only become more deeply entrenched in university and K-12 workflows alike. We are not going backward.
Absolutely. And as we anticipate the new features and architectural updates at Canva Create 2026 this April, it's clear the boundaries of what is possible in a classroom will continue to expand rapidly. Which leaves us with this final thought. The true masterclass for educators today isn't about learning to click a specific AI button or write the perfect prompt.
No. It's about critically and thoughtfully integrating this massive, powerful ecosystem into a sound, equitable pedagogical framework.
Exactly. 20 years ago, the ultimate challenge was staring at a blank page and figuring out how to painstakingly build the scaffolding of a lesson from scratch. Today, the scaffolding builds itself in seconds.
It really does.
The ultimate question for educators and students alike is no longer how to build the page, but what heights we can reach now that we never have to start from the ground again. Thank you for joining us.